back on the road.
It's bluff country, isn't it?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Trout stream country.
Mm-hmm. Well,
should we make a road trip?
To my knowledge, to review the Thursday and Friday shows, we had Bill Glahn in on Thursday. He's with the Center for the American Experiment. The Center of the American Experiment.
Thank you.
And he broke down a 54-minute tape that Keith Ellison had in his office with people who were soon to become food fraudsters on trial. And he claimed he didn't know that's who they were, even though a year previously he had insisted that he was on top of the food fraud scandal. And then on Friday, we had Jim Schultz in, an attorney who narrowly lost to Keith in the most recent Attorney General election. And Jim was able to certainly corroborate everything that Bill Glahn told us. And what we were left with was the undeniable fact that at the very least, Keith Ellison needs to be investigated for his role. Well, let me phrase it carefully. Help me, people. He needs to be at least questioned as to what the extent of his involvement was with these people that became food fraudsters and donated money to him, which I understand he returned that money. And I'm bringing it up again today for a variety of reasons. The story has developed legs. The Pioneer Press had it as its play story Saturday.
Oh, it did?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
Fox 9 has had it. Carol 11 has had it. WCCO also appears to have aired a report on Friday night. The Washington Free Beacon has a piece on Ellison's involvement. The only outfit that has not said a word yet is the Star Tribune. And perhaps they've just merely made an editorial decision. They think it's much ado about nothing.
Wait a minute. I thought you just said they did it on Saturday. Did I?
Pioneer Press.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The other one.
All right.
Not the main one.
Star Tribune has not had it, which I find to be, again, it can only be an example of them making a conscious editorial decision to ignore the 54-minute tape and think it's not newsworthy.
Well, surely
insane.
Keith he has to answer to somebody, right?
This might be helpful. I have a note from a fellow who does not want his name used, but I know of him. He's written us before. He's a retired FBI agent. Maybe I wasn't supposed to say that.
You were just kidding. He's not.
Under Minnesota law, the governor and the attorney general are really the only ones who can appoint a special prosecutor to look into Ellison's suspicious relationship with the Feeding Our Future gang of incompetents. But that ain't going to happen, says the emailer. And I happen to agree with them. Do you think Walls or Ellison will follow up on this? The answer is no. The only real way to investigate Ellison is by the U.S. Department of Justice, especially the FBI. And guess what? There's going to be a new sheriff in town. The United States Attorney for Minnesota is a presidential appointee and the chief law enforcement officer in Minnesota. U.S. Representatives Emmer, Stauber, Finstad, and Fischbach have nominated 3 for the job: Ronald Schultz, Daniel Rosen, and Erica McDonald, with McDonald holding an edge because she was Trump's prior appointment during his last term. So it may very well be that McDonald gets the case, and she'll decide that if a federal grand jury should be convened and likely issue subpoenas for testimony and documents to explore Ellison's cozy relationship with that criminal enterprise. What are the potential federal violations? One of the best and probably most widely used statute is wire fraud. That is, using electronic communication, the internet, text messaging, emails, Instagram, TikTok, etc., as a conveyance to further the crime or the conspiracy. Pretty easy to prove. Bribery is certainly a possibility if there was a quid pro quo for financial donations. My point is, I firmly believe Keith Ellison has to be on the Fed's radar, and I predict there will be a deep dig into his prior dealings with those defendants or any sources of his campaign contributions. Well, that's a ray of hope, isn't it?
Yeah.
And then I can turn to another.
Here's today's ray of hope.
Another centerpiece. The American Experiment broke the story of the hour-long recording of Keith Ellison meeting with participants in the Feeding Our Future fraud scandal. During the meeting, Ellison appeared unaware of the developing scandal, which is not plausible, pledged to use the power of his office to help, and entertained a conversation about campaign contributions following his direction. Money is freedom, Ellison was heard saying on the recording, presumably from his state office. The boldness, you have to admire, this is a Bill Walsh piece, you have to admire the boldness of people actively engaged in fraud, deciding to complain loudly to the state's law enforcement officer. We touched on that, but not enough. You realize what this was. These were the fraudsters, not yet arrested, complaining to the Attorney General of Minnesota that their payments had been held up. That their payments had been held up because of a lawsuit in which the judge, John Guthman, did not rule that the state must pay them. He ruled that the state must follow the rules of the contracts and either tell them yes or no, you're going to get paid. He did not tell them to pay them. Many leftists in town are lying about that and using the judge as a scapegoat to say, well, the fraud only continued because the judge told the Department of Education to continue to make the payments. That is not what the judge did. But I've been lied to by many people I know on the left who have, when I bring this argument up, they attack me and say, oh no, the judge ordered that money to be paid. No, he did not. In any event, imagine that boldness. They're basically saying, Keith, you got to do something here.
Right.
We got this big scam going, and suddenly it stopped, and we need your help. No, they didn't use that language. Then we have Salim Saeed was in that December 2021 meeting with Keith Ellison, complaining loudly about unfair and racist behavior from two state agencies. He contributed $600 to Ellison's Son campaign a few days later. In March, just last month, Saeed was convicted of 21 counts of conspiracy to commit wire fraud with conspiracy to commit federal programs bribery, money laundering, and conspiracy to commit money laundering. After a slow start, the rest of the media caught up with this bombshell story, except, of course, the Minneapolis Star-Tribune and Minnesota Public Radio. I think there are people at the Tribune who should be embarrassed by this. Not NPR. I don't care what they do, but the Star-Tribune...
It's Minnesota's newspaper, Joe.
You really... You have staffers there who are real reporters. They have to be embarrassed that they're being... I'm going to go out on a limb and say they're being prevented from writing this. They're basically now the only news agency left in town that hasn't reported on this 54-minute tape.
I would lay equal blame with Minnesota Public Radio. Absolutely.
Okay.
It makes them look like
In
fools.
fact, look
I
at
know,
the
but
headline.
they're used to looking like fools.
Look at the headline in today's paper. What does it say?
It's a play story about Elon Musk's Department of... See, here's another problem in the modern life we live in. The life has become this screwed up. If you're anti-Ellison, that can only mean you're pro-Trump.
Uh-huh.
That's where we are.
That's how it works.
If you bring up the fault of Walz or Ellison, it must be because you're a pro-Trumper.
John, are you anti-Ellison?
No, John has paid rapt attention to this story, and I would imagine, John, you'll find it odd that the Tribune hasn't commented on it.
I do, but I was just looking at the Fox 9 and Care 11 ones, and they don't really take a stand.
No, they
except
don't.
To say that.
They entered the water very carefully.
How so? In what manner?
Well, they're saying that Ellison on the tape appears unaware
Yeah.
of the program.
Oh, okay. So they're
at all.
dipping their toe in the water.
Right.
Yeah, being very careful.
Hang on one second, though. Give me 1 second here. I take issue with that just a bit, John, because you saw the tweet from the Care 11 site that surfaced on Friday, correct? Or are you reading from their
I did
website
not.
story?
I'm reading from their website
Okay,
stories.
so the headline, because I took issue with this on Friday on social media. The headline from Care 11 on Friday says, recording shows Attorney General Keith Ellison still didn't know about feeding her future fraud 8 months into FBI investigation, which you're leading the witness with that headline.
Well, I don't believe that headline. I believe
I don't
that,
either,
I
yeah.
believe that Ellison knew. As I said, after a slow start, the rest of the media has caught up, with the exception of the Star Tribune and public radio. The recording raises two important questions about Minnesota's relationship with the Attorney General. Question number one, who prosecutes the state's top prosecutor? Well, we just went through that. In 1996, Senate Majority Leader Roger Moe was accused of using state resources for campaign purposes. A whistleblower on the staff told prosecutors she was directed by Moe to stuff campaign envelopes on state time in her state office. Moe and his top aide were indicted by a grand jury under the direction of Ramsey County Attorney Susan Gartner. Moe was accused of violating Statute 43A.32.